Well, David, thank you so much for joining us. First off, how have you been doing during, obviously this very crazy time?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, totally unprecedented. Something we've never seen, or many of us couldn't even imagine. But we're doing well. Family is in quarantine, and it's actually been an interesting experience. I think I was doing a lot of traveling, and I now am able just to almost recalibrate and just kind of surrender to it all and just be with the family. So it's we're doing well, and our heart goes out to a lot of the people who right now are suffering and have parents or relatives who've lost lives. So it's a hard time.
Absolutely, very difficult time, and it's good to hear that you're spending time with family. I think that's so important to kind of spend the time that a lot of us took for granted. How have you been keeping busy? Talk to us about some of the fun things you've done with your kids.
Well, like many people, I think you go to the fridge every half hour, and I'm not sure if that's a result of being hungry or bored. And I can tell you, you've got me from here up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
the quarantine 15, as they call it.
So it's been, it's funny because this is the first time where for myself, I've been able to really surrender to the fact that I have no deadlines, and everyone, my broadcasters, everyone's aware that we're in this together and we can't expect much. And so as opposed to feeling, oh, I need to get this done or we're on deadlines, I've been able to just kind of surrender to it and just be in the moment. And so a lot of that is playing games with the kids, cooking, of course, and not getting too uptight that the kids aren't doing homework or don't have this or aren't. And we've just kind of said, okay, we're all in this together, and it's not a race, and it's not that they have to get things done either. And so we've tried to just maintain kind of some balance and all that.
Yeah, everything slowed down a little bit, and I like that we're all in this together, because it doesn't matter if we're in Canada, we're in Italy, we're in South America, everyone is going through the same thing.
Yeah, there's no borders, and it's something that, in the early days, it was China and Italy, and certainly now in the last week or so, it's now become, a big crisis even in the US and Canada. So far, we've been able to be relatively but those things can change, and things have been changing day to day. So we're all in this together for sure.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Italy. I mean, Dolce Italia is airing right now on TLN. I want to know, what does it feel like watching back those episodes now and just in hindsight realizing how lucky you were to experience Italy the way it was before all this?
Yeah, I think if anything, this has really brought in a reminder how lucky we are and were, and just the gratitude that we almost need to embrace even in this period of time. And when we do look at the episodes, there is a smile and fond memories. In fact, even my friends and family that are in Italy have all received copies of their episodes, and people that have participated, and they'll often say thank you, because this is something that also distracts us and inspires us and really reminds us that Italy will return, and she will return to her beauty and splendor and be better than ever. And so, we all need to almost do a little escapism with these type of shows. And so it's I look back and fondly remember moments of shooting and the craziness that ensued and all that good stuff. So it's a nice diversion even for my family.
Of course, and for everyone at home, I mean, it feels like you're in Italy. You get to travel, you get to explore.
Well, I was in Italy.
Your living room. Well, you were, but our viewers weren't. Well, a lot of them might have, but
no,
it's a nice escape. It's a nice escape.
It is, and there's also, when you look at, aside from the beauty, it's a reminder of how we need each other and how food connects us all, and the stories, and even this year with the Dolce Italia, it's not about just cooking, it's not just the beauty of Italy, but the resilience of the people, some of their stories, the human stories that right now, well, before the coronavirus, what they were going through, how people's lives had been changed over the last 3-4 years, even in Venice with mass tourism. So it certainly is a slice of Italian life, but also in a different approach that shows the human stories behind maybe the food.
Of course. Now, David, let's talk about Venice. You did bring it up, and I think it's such a beautiful story seeing how there was mass and masses of tourists, and now the water is clear, and there's pictures of the Venice canals finally having fish again. Talk to us a little bit about what people could have seen in that episode and what it looks like now.
Yeah, well, if there is one good from all this, we try and look at some of the positives of maybe reconnecting with family, spending time, slowing down, and maybe the world is being recalibrated on some level. Nature is coming more in balance, and that is something that is being experienced now in Venice. And just 2 days ago, I spoke to a friend of mine in Murano. And he was saying, the stillness of the water is quite incredible. And when we were there, we really wanted to look at a Venice that most people aren't familiar with, and the lives of the Venetians and how they're kind of living in the current climate of mass tourism. And I'll never forget having this scene. It was just beautiful cicchetti and prosecco, and we were talking, and then there's this big cruise boat, like this big huge like love boat thing, and just going through the canal, and the gentleman that we were with, he said, this is what we have to deal with. And it was the tourist that comes for the day, and he said that leaves 8 hours later, and the disruption it causes. And so part of their frustration was gone were the days where people came to Venice to enjoy the culture, to explore, to just live in the climate of Venice and all its beauty for a week. Now they're coming for 4, 5, 8 hours, and the effects it's had not only on the local economy but on the environment. People often will say, and I often heard this with the Venetians, that tourism is great, but it's the type of tourism that they have to, I guess, balance. And one of those concerns was the day tourists that will come, have their panino, walk around, and then leave. And often it leaves the city with a lot of problems.
Absolutely. Well, I think after this, people are really going to start to be a little bit more mindful the way they travel, the way they experience new cultures, because we are all so desperate to get out and explore and learn. And I think long gone are the days of tourists leaving garbage behind and not really minding their surroundings. So I think this has been an opportunity for that to change and for that to clear up.
Yeah, and even with a lot of the young generation in Venice, what was interesting, and I've seen it happen even in Florence, where in the centro storico, in the center of these cities like Florence or Venice, you have the real Venetian. When I say the real Venetian, people that their parents, grandparents, or the Fiorentini that suddenly have been pushed out because you have apartment owners that would much prefer to rent to an Airbnb day vacationer, someone that comes for a day or 2 or 3 days, and they can make more money. And so what happens is this the fabric, the social fabric of what makes a city great has been lost, because a lot of these young families have been forced to move outside the city center. And in some cases, like in Venice, they're taking a 20-30 minute ferry into Venice because they can't afford rents and they can't afford homes, not even to buy, but even just to rent a home. So there's been a whole shift in that thinking. And I think municipalities now have an opportunity, when all this is finished, to maybe look at how they want to move forward and how a city can embrace tourism, but a type of tourism that can also include the locals.
Absolutely. And that's a little more authentic. I remember when we were shooting last year, even at Campo dei Fiori, you were mentioning it wasn't the same. It's not
No.
the same as it was before tourism. So
Yeah,
it'll
no,
be interesting.
I've certainly seen even in Rome the Romani, and no one lives now in Campo di Fiori, and that's actually an episode that, or that's a topic that we actually discussed in one of our Rome episodes. Is the Romano, that that Verace, that kind of that Roman kind of taste and kind of flair that you once saw. Not even that long ago, maybe 20 years ago, has now disappeared.
First, I want to talk about another episode as well, Milan, because you have a specific episode where you're kind of guided around by musicians and you get to discover this new side of Milan that I think not a lot of people know exists. Talk to us about that moment.
Well, Milan is an incredible city. It is culturally diverse. It's a city unlike any in Italy where you can get great Thai food, Indian food, Sri Lankan, and just different restaurants. The cultural fabric is diverse. And because you have so many people over the last 40 years that have migrated to Milan from the south and from other parts of Europe, there is a certain kind of energy and a flair that very few cities in Italy have, or maybe even Europe. And Milan has kind of come into a bit of a renaissance over the last few years. And so there is, there's some amazing stories. And we actually went to visit a jail in Milan, and this woman has created this program where she rehabilitates inmates for their release to go into the restaurant business. And the jail opened a restaurant called In Galera, which means in jail, and it is run by inmates. And it's an incredible story of hope, of inspiring people for second chances, and also giving them a skill set to go into the world when they, upon release. So that's
open to the.
It's open to the public.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it is. It's an incredible experience. And, then we also witnessed, before social distancing, just the Milanese spirit. They have these like flash mobs, but they're flash mob dinners where people will subscribe to a Facebook group and they will get notification of a dinner in a piazza 3-4 hours before. They're knowing that, on August 8th, there'll be a flash mob dinner, but no one knows where. And then 3 hours before, they get notification where. And it's this amazing thing. And there's some basic rules. Rules are that you have to bring food that you made. You have to have cutlery and glassware. So there's no plastic, no styrofoam cups, nothing like that. And you have to bring chair and table. And so people are walking to these piazzas, and sometimes the police come and there's nothing we can do. There's like 2,000 people eating, so they've gotten warnings. But it's just this amazing spirit of locals figuring out how to reconnect with each other and how to use their environment, like the wonderful piazzas of Milan, to bring people together over food. So that was a fun. Yeah, it was really fun.
It's tough to think about that now, just knowing that Milan is the epicenter of this entire situation and how everyone is kind of so scared right now. But it also brings so much hope that once this is over, these are the things that we're going to appreciate. Being able to be surrounded by 2,000 people, shaking hands and not having a worry in the world, right? Yeah,
I think that's important. And even speaking to people that are literally in the epicenter of this whole situation in Italy and in Milan, have said we'll get over this. Italy is resilient, is strong, and Italians love to have that human connection with each other. And they are determined, though, to stick with this social distancing and do their part. And but they say that it will return. And I'm hopeful as well that, the human spirit, that desire for human contact and connection with each other over an espresso or a hug will come back.
Absolutely. It's been beautiful seeing just how together Italy is, even with balcony concerts. We've seen people singing and playing instruments and really bringing people together. So I have no doubt that this is just a minor step in the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we witness it, like you said, with those social media clips that we've all seen, and the connection of singing with each other, and just that feeling that no one's alone, that we're all in this together. And I think that's probably the most important thing to take out of this, is no matter where you are in the world, and I have friends, that I'm in touch with in Malaysia and in India, the US, they're all going through the same thing, and we all need to, as a global community, do our part.
Absolutely. Now, before we let you go, let's chat about Bologna, because there's a very specific, interesting title to this episode, Fat Bologna. And
Bologna the Fat, yes.
I want to know what that means, because that's how I feel after quarantine.
Well, if you've visited Bologna, there's the tortelloni, the tortellini, the prosciutto, the mortadella. I mean, the food there is rich, is fatty, is wonderful. And, after spending a week there shooting, we all felt the appropriate title would be Bologna the Fat, which the Bolognese embrace. They embrace it with absolutely pure pride and pleasure. And certainly when you're there, you just got to indulge.
That's incredible. What was the best dish you've tried in Bologna? I know you hate this question because there's so many incredible foods, but number one, you have to try. As soon as this is all over, if I go to Bologna, what am I going to eat?
It's like saying, who's my favorite child? And and in these quarantine days, sometimes it fluctuates between who's getting on my nerves. But no, the ragu, the way the Bolognese do it, is just a marvel. The tortellini, the tortellone, the wonderful filled ricotta pasta is phenomenal. Listen, I can go on, and I just ate before coming on. I think I might want to go back and go into the fridge now that you're getting my mind onto food.
I know, that's the crazy thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it's definitely a city that is wonderful when it comes to food.
Of course. And I think with Dolce Italia, every Wednesday, every Sunday on TLN, we're all, getting that taste of Italy, the food, the culture, the people, and it's such a beautiful thing to do. So I definitely recommend everyone at home, if you're missing traveling, this is what you've got to watch to get out of this space that we're confined to.
Yeah, a little bit of escapism and being inspired and hopeful is something we all need.
Absolutely. David, is there a message or something that you would want to share to all the TLN viewers that are just like us right now, sitting at home, wondering when will this all be over?
Yeah, it's, I don't have any answers. I just say that, we are in this together. We're in this big ship trying to navigate the seas. And, what we can all do is do our part and stay in. I know everyone says it, but, just one small note is, you think of the frontline workers that risk their lives and even sacrifice spending time with their families to make sure that they're helping the families. So the least we can do, our small little part, is just to stay in and make that commitment, if not to ourselves, but to them. So stay well, everyone. Stay safe and enjoy the quarantine life. We got nowhere to go.
Exactly. No one's missing out on anything.
No, exactly. There's no party we're missing. It's no one's having more fun than us.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us and for chatting about Dolce Italia.
Thank you. Anytime. It was fun, and God bless.
You too. Stay safe, and
Thank
of course
you.
with your family, stay healthy as well.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.